everybody, Caleb here. Today I've got this little harmony guitar, and this was one of those little pawn shop finds, not by me, but by a family member for another family member, much younger one, as you could probably guess by the size of this guitar, that I just got asked to take a little look at before it was given. And so, you know, I thought I'd take a quick look at it. The action's a little high, so we're going to try to get this down to, you know, good height would be good for learning on. And just clean it up a little bit. But it's not too bad. It's that smaller child size harmony. It's really not in that bad a shape. There's just a couple little things I want to do to maybe clean it up a little bit and get that action a little bit lower so it's really comfortable to play. Easy to learn on mostly, but yeah, we'll do that and get it going. So we'll go ahead and set her down and take a look at it, and I'll bring you along. Alrighty, so we got this thing set down here. First thing we're going to do is the easiest thing here. And we're going to see that the bass is just under 120 thousandths of an inch high. I'd like that to be closer to 90. That treble string not nearly as bad. Sitting about 95, 96, just under 100. And we'd like it to be just about 80. This is 120, this is about 90. I'll write that down real quick so I won't forget it. Just to find something to write it down on. So we got the big E. Is 120. The little E is about 95. So we'll save that number for later. If I look at this a little bit more, that saddle definitely can come down that much. I'm not worried about that. It could use a little bit of cleanup. That fretboard's a little dirty. The string height at the nut really isn't bad. Yeah, it's really not terrible. I can maybe shave a little bit of height off that nut. The strings are a little low. If I take a little bit off the top of there, hopefully that leaves less binding points for the string so that it will tune easier. It really doesn't tune bad. The tuners work pretty good. As far as what this guitar is, if it's for like a kid's learner guitar, it's really doing pretty good. My only complaint so far has been action's a little high. And that's a kind of a big thing, you know? It's a big thing for kids learning how to play. Just a couple other things I'm going to do, and I may do this first while I'm sitting here. This is used. This came from a thrift store or a pawn shop or something like that. There's a couple of dings here around the edges. What I'm going to do about that is I'm just going to take a black Sharpie and color those in. So I've got my thing full of Sharpies here. And I gotta say, colored Sharpies has been such a big game changer for me. I've got all these browns that are really, really good for matching like see-through wood tones. Just like not quite totally opaque wood tones. And even on these bursts, just a little bit of black Sharpie will make spots disappear. I'll try to zoom in here so I can really show you what I'm doing. So like there's a little spot right here. You can see just a little bit of that wood there, and this is going to be hard for me to do because I'm working backwards. I'm just going to take this black Sharpie and color that in. And it doesn't 100% disappear, but it makes it way less noticeable when you don't get that white wood. So there's another spot on the other side. I'll flip it around and show you. And this is purely cosmetic. This is obviously not structural in any degree, but since I have it, I may as well just touch it up. And some of those spots just kind of disappear. And it helps. It's not like a, world changer, but it masks the usedness of a guitar like this. Now sometimes, you don't really want all those spots to disappear. You want a guitar to show some wear. I wouldn't exactly say this is one of those. I'm just taking a look at the back here. It's all blue, so I'm not going to have an easy time doing that with black. I do have a blue Sharpie sitting here. I might try it just to see what it's going to do. That's okay. I usually take my finger and just kind of rub off any excess after I'm done. And that usually ends up looking the best. But that was pretty much all I wanted to do with that. Those Sharpies, they've been really good for matching color. And especially the brown ones. All the shades of brown have been hugely helpful for me. Just covering up tiny little blemishes and just mitigating what they look like. Alright, I'm going to take the strings off of this. The bass strings aren't bad, but the high strings are crusty, so I'm just going to go ahead and chuck them all. They've all been on here for who knows how long, sitting in a thrift shop waiting to be purchased, so we're just going to go ahead and lose them all. I'm looking at the frets. If I don't see any high spots, and we'll check the neck straightness as well while this is loose, so we can be just under perfectly straight. I don't really see any real bad fret wear. So if we don't see any high frets, I don't see any reason to do anything more than maybe polish these frets up. And we'll definitely polish them out there. I have that Savannah guitar of mine. It's got these similar like brass frets, probably, where they're not chrome, they're not silvery, and they polish up really nice. So I'm hoping these will do the same. We could use a little bit of filing on the bottom of those pins. Oh man, they're just deep in there. They're hard to get a grip on initially. We'll get these strings off of here, and we'll do a little tap test to see if we see anything, hear anything. Moreover, rattling around inside, because that's always an important check. It's kind of hard to tell sometimes before you get the strings off if you hear any moving parts that shouldn't be moving. Ouch. Jeez. Yeah, these are crusty. They've sat someplace humid for long enough. Okay. Okay. I've got a little paintbrush. I didn't make it out of clay, but it's sitting around here somewhere. I was going to use to dust off the headstock. I found it, so we're just going to dust that headstock off. And not stop there. Okay. Set that aside. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to listen real closely to this thing and just kind of tap it. I want to make sure there's nothing loose on the inside. Nothing rattling around. I don't really hear anything. So it sounds pretty good. Just trying to make sure that we don't have anything loose, because usually you can hear it rattling around if it's loose. Went ahead and pulled that saddle out of there. I'm actually going to put it right back in there, just making sure I can get it out. It's looking good. That bridge is definitely a piece of dyed wood or painted wood. It's just where it's worn, it's coming out white. Where it's, you know, been dyed black. It's a little bit dusty. I'm thinking about going to get just a slightly moist cloth, and I think I can do that if I've got towels. I ain't got nothing. So I'm going to have to go grab some towels, and I'm just going to lightly moisten one and clean this thing off of any dust or grime. And then we'll clean it up a little bit more. So we'll do that first, and we'll come back. Alright, so I went and got some paper towels. I got paper towels now. I'm just going to slightly spritz it with my water bottle. So it's not crazy wet, but moist enough to pick up dust. I'm just going to go over this thing. There's a couple places where there's a little bit of crud on it. That I've already mostly gotten rid of. And it's already looking better. I'm just going to take this quickly and do one of these numbers. So this fretboard is looking like composite. I don't know that for certain, but I'm pretty sure that's what's going on here. That's okay. It should be easy enough to clean. Same deal. That inlay sticks out a little bit. So does that one. Make sure they don't move. And actually, that incentivizes me to do it the way I was going to do it anyway. So I'm going to polish these frets. I'm just going to use the same old micro polishing pads I always use. Because I like them. It's been a little while since I've knocked this one out. So basically, I'm just going to take the pad and I'm going to do this. This is going to clean these frets up. It's also going to make the board a little bit dull, but I'm going to come back through here with a razor blade after we're done with this and clean that board up perfect, and it's actually going to make sure those inlays that stick out a little bit no longer stick out a little bit. Alright, that's looking good. There's just a stack of them here, stack of 6. and you run through them all. They're already looking shinier. Which is what I really wanted to see. Not quite done yet, but we're getting there. One of these days, I'll think to make a really good picture of before and after on these guys. But I never really remember to do it until I'm halfway done. And so we end up with what we got. But it's, to my eye, it's looking a lot better already. And it should. We're just about done here. And polishing them up does more than just makes them look good. It makes them feel good. When you're pushing the string against them, they glide a lot better if they're well polished. They're nice and shiny. They're not gritty. And finally, this one. Okay. Well, there you go. I think you can see that. Those got a nice shine to them. So what we'll do now is we'll come through and we'll clean up that board, which I'm just going to grab a brand new razor blade right now. The new ones are nice and sharp. And we're going to find out what this is real quick. Thing is, this is a cheaper instrument, and I don't know that this board is gonna stay black if I carve too much off of it. I'm gonna be relatively careful here with what I take off. That inlay that's sticking out, I'm just kind of carving off the top. It's plastic, so it's not taking too much. Oh, I take that back. There's a little black that came off down here. This is wood that's just been dyed or painted black. So this is definitely wood. I say it came off. It was there like that when I got it. I didn't take any black off. I was careful enough. I'm just going to put a little bit of oil on here. Because if it really is wood, then we can soak it with some oil. And it'll look real good and feel real good. Just take a cloth and wipe off the excess. And just like that, we've got a really good looking fingerboard and frets. I'll show you that. Fingerboard. Just a little bit of excess down here. But it's looking really good now. Okay, so I'm going to shave a little bit of height off that nut now. I think that's probably a good plan of action here. The base side wasn't bad. The treble side, the nut is just a little high. I'll try to show you that. So if I grab one of those strings, this string drops down really deep into that nut. So that leaves lots of places for it to get bound up, and then it won't tune as well. So what I'm just going to do here is shave off the top. So that from the top of the nut, those slots aren't quite so deep. Now I'm keeping a finger on this edge, so I'm not running that into anything, and it gives me good control of where my file's at. Because if I didn't, I could very easily just start carving on this and run into that paint and scratch it up. So I don't want to do that. But I still need to kind of blend this into this curve. If I recall correctly, there's an old StuMac video that says you only need half the diameter of the string. So really only the radius thickness needs to be carved into the nut from the top, just so that it doesn't jump out to the left or right. And that's the optimal for tuning stability, so that it flows freely through the nut. But so yeah, you can go pretty close to the bottom of the hole. I'm not sure if I want to play it that close to the chest on this particular instrument, but any taken off the top is going to be better than it was. Alright, we're going to soften that corner again. Where's my paintbrush? Grab that string again. Oh, it's significantly better. It's no longer going in there about 6 miles. No, it's just, you know, 1.5. But actually, that's really ain't too bad. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take my little polishing pad here, start back at 1, and just run it over the whole thing. Alright, that's good. So we got that nut lowered a little bit, so that should help tuning stability a little bit. And it really wasn't bad, but I think, you know, any advances we can get, we'll take. So we'll come back out here. What I will need to do next is adjust the saddle height. Oh, those feel really good. So next thing will be adjust that saddle height. My disc sander is not in here at the moment, so I'm going to have to step away to go do that. But if I move this up here, we can talk about how I'm going to do it. If I can find my calipers. They're right here. So, my string heights I have still written down here. I want them to be closer to 90 and 80. So that's a difference of 30 and 15. Now, for me to drop 30 thousandths at the 12th fret, I have to take off twice that at the saddle. So I have to take off 60 thousandths from the high E and 30 thousandths from the low E. Other way around. I have to take off 60 thousandths from the low E, the big string, and 30 thousandths from the high E, the little string. And to mark that up, I will grab myself another Sharpie from the pen, the pen drawer, my little thing full of permanent markers here, and I will just mark this up. So what I'm going to do is just mark this very edge on both sides. And what I've figured out recently is it actually helps me to have it on both sides. So that I can work off both sides when I get to the disc sander. Then I'll open my calipers up here. Make sure we're zeroed. We are. Up to my numbers. Here's 30 thousandths for the treble side. And I'll just set the bottom one here on the corner of the saddle and scratch a line in my Sharpie. And it leaves just the tiniest little line in there. I don't know how well you can see it. It doesn't show up on my viewfinder very well, but I can see it. Let's see if you can't see that one. And then we'll open this up to 60 thousandths and repeat it on the base side. And then, so if I take down from my lines on each side to just barely disappear, I'll have a perfectly flat surface that will be exactly the right height. So I gotta go take this to my disc sander and sand this down. So I'll be back. Alright, so I just got done shaving the saddle down. So we're looking good there. So I'm gonna go ahead and stick that back in there. Ooh, I'm gonna try to stick that back in there. That's looking good. What we're going to do next is put a little bevel on these end pins. It will help kind of push that ball end where it goes against the bridge plate in the future, which will prevent these from popping out when you go to restring it. So I'm going to grab a fairly heavy file because it's easier to do it that way. And we'll just knock this out real quick. Okay, so I got a fairly heavy file sitting here. What we'll end up doing here, I'll zoom in a little bit. So I'll just hold this flat and basically just put a little bevel on the end. To push that ball end down so it's not sitting on the top here, which is just going to push that pin back out. That's when it's sitting this way. It'll kind of fall up against the bridge plate. We'll do that 6 times. And you get a good cut file or rasp. And this doesn't take any time at all. You can do this on the belt sander or a disc sander. Same deal. You really don't need to do much on that then. You gotta be careful with these little plastic guys. You don't want to take off any material that you don't want to, but you just shave it down. Just like that. There's 6. I think we're ready to restring this thing. Let me make some room here. Pull this guy back here. Set this guy to the side. And I'm going to put regular strings on this because this is a short scale. I'm going to put regular strings on here. If this were a longer scale, I would be putting lighter strings on. Because it's shorter, it's still going to leave them fairly loose. So I didn't really want to go with light strings on a short scale. I figured that was going to be way too loose. So I'm just doing my regular EJ26s. No, EJ16s, sorry. From D'Addario, the phosphor bronze set. These strings I use all the time for everything, as you can tell, because I have a huge box of them. And I think we're just going to string this thing up. What am I sitting on? Ooh, a little cup. Okay. Here we go again. And then, of course, my least favorite thing to do on camera is stringing up. So I will go ahead and cut and kind come back once I've got all the strings on here. So I got this all strung up, and the short scale is not stretching these strings real tight, and therefore it's not wanting to stay in tune real well. And these strings are still a little bright for this little guitar, which they'll wear in and they'll get better. But right now, brand new strings on this little thing, it's a little tinny. But it's pretty good. It plays great. Feels really good. It's too short a scale for me. I'm not used to it, and this is the first time I've really run into that, where I'm just like, I'm hitting the wrong notes because I'm muscle memorying it entirely. But it reminds me of playing a ukulele almost, and I almost want to play it like that, where I'm just sitting up here. Just kind of strumming. But it's kind of fun. It's going to be a great little learner guitar, and that's really what this is meant for. But it's strung up. The action's right where I want it to be. Can't complain at all. Just need to get these strings stretched and worn in a little bit, and then it'll be playing as good as it will. So thanks for watching this little bit of setup work on this little kid's guitar. Everybody loves a little harmony. So I'll see you next time.